It's okay, it's okay.
Alles
I was carrying the baby up the stairs. We need the baby! We need him!
The movie begins with a news report playing in a coffee shop in London. The report announces the death of baby Diego, the youngest person on Earth, who was 18 years old. Diego was recently murdered by one of his own fans, and the world is in mourning over the loss of the last human ever born. Inside the shop, a man named Theo watches the news briefly before buying a coffee. He appears cynical and unimpressed by the public display of grief. As Theo walks out of the establishment and onto the street, a massive explosion occurs behind him. The blast destroys the coffee shop he just left, injuring several people and leaving Theo visibly shaken. Despite the close call, Theo proceeds to his job as a bureaucrat. His co-workers are visibly upset by the news of baby Diego's death, with many of them crying at their desks. Theo visits his boss and lies, claiming that he is too distraught to work and needs to go home. The boss believes him and grants him permission to leave for the day. Theo takes a train out of the city, passing through areas where the windows are protected by heavy cages. Outside, illegal immigrants throw rocks at the passing train, showing the growing hostility in the country. The United Kingdom has become a militarized police state, and it is the only nation that remains somewhat stable. Because of this, it is deluged by asylum seekers trying to find safety. The government responds to the influx of refugees with extreme violence. Forces round up and detain immigrants in cages, preparing them for imprisonment, deportation, or execution. Theo walks past these holding cells after getting off the train and meets his longtime friend, Jasper. Jasper is a former political cartoonist who now lives in a secluded, hidden house in the woods. At Jasper's home, Theo meets Jasper's wife, Janice. She was once a journalist but was tortured into a catatonic state by the secret services because of her reporting. Jasper takes care of her while growing a potent strain of cannabis and listening to loud music. The two friends discuss the state of the world and a group known as the Human Project. The Human Project is a mysterious organization rumored to be searching for a cure for infertility. Theo is skeptical and believes that it is far too late for humanity to be saved. He feels the world has already succumbed to too much depression and war to ever recover. Jasper tries to cheer him up, but the conversation remains grounded in the grim reality of their existence.
Italia.
My ears are still ringing from earlier.
A little Zen music won't bother you then, will it?
The next day, Theo is walking through the city when two men suddenly grab him and pull him into a van. They put a bag over his head and drive him to a secret location. When the bag is removed, Theo finds himself in an interrogation room with a group known as the Fishes. The Fishes are a militant immigrant rights organization that fights against the government's treatment of refugees. To his surprise, the leader of the group is his estranged ex-wife, Julian Taylor. The two of them were once activists together but drifted apart after their young son died during a flu pandemic in 2008. Julian explains that she needs Theo's help because of his connections. She wants him to use his cousin, who is a high-ranking government official, to obtain transit papers for a young refugee.
Walk with me.
I don't think that's a good
Come
idea.
on. I heard about your mother. I'm sorry.
Julian explains that the young refugee needs to get to the coast safely. She offers Theo £5,000 to facilitate the deal through his government connections. Theo initially refuses the offer, believing that the task is far too risky and that he would be putting his life in danger for the money. Julian decides to release him but gives him the money anyway, hoping he will change his mind because she trusts him. Later, Theo visits his cousin Nigel, who is a government minister in charge of a state-sponsored collection of salvaged art. Theo lies to Nigel, claiming that he needs the transit papers for his girlfriend whom he deeply loves. Nigel agrees to provide the documents, but the papers come with a specific condition. The bearer of the transit papers must be accompanied by their significant other at all times during travel. Because of this restriction, Theo is forced to personally escort the refugee to the coast in exchange for a larger sum of money. He meets with a Fish's henchman at a bar to confirm the details and sees a photograph of the person he will be transporting. Theo still does not understand why Julian chose him for this task when she could have used other methods. However, he prepares to meet the group and begin the journey toward Canterbury.
Did you get the papers?
Look at me.
It's hard for me to look at you. He had your eyes.
The next day, Theo joins the transport team, which includes Julian, a Fish's member named Luke who acts as the driver, and a former midwife named Miriam. They are escorting a young woman named Key. As they drive through a heavily forested area, their vehicle is suddenly ambushed by an armed gang. The attackers block the road and swarm the car, leading to a chaotic struggle. During the ambush, Julian is shot in the neck and fatally wounded. Theo manages to fight off the attackers long enough for the group to drive away, but the car is severely damaged. Soon after, they encounter a police intercept down the road. When two police officers attempt to question them and see the bleeding Julian, Luke kills both officers to prevent their arrest.
Get in the fucking car!
The group stops in the forest to hide Julian's body. Theo is devastated by the death of his ex-wife and walks away from the others to mourn in private. Luke then directs the group to a fish's safe house located on a rural farm. Once they arrive, Theo tries to leave the group, but Luke insists it is too dangerous for him to go out alone. That evening, Miriam calls Theo into a barn where Key is waiting to speak with him. Key reveals that Julian told her Theo was the only person she could truly trust. To Theo's absolute shock, Key removes her clothing and reveals that she is pregnant. In a world that has been infertile for nearly 2 decades, Key is the only known pregnant woman on Earth.
I'm scared.
Theo realizes the staggering importance of Key's condition, as she could be the key to the survival of the human race. Julian's original plan was to deliver Key to the Human Project, which is rumored to be located in the Azores. However, Luke, who has now taken over as the leader of the fishes, persuades Key to stay at the farm for the time being. While staying at the farm, the group watches a news broadcast that labels them as terrorists. The report states that the police have identified Theo, Luke, Key, and Miriam for the murder of the 2 police officers. Luke argues that the plan to move Key might have to change because of their new status as fugitives. Theo suggests that they should publicly announce the pregnancy to ensure Key's safety, but the fishes disagree. The fishes believe that the British government would never accept a child from an illegal immigrant and might take the baby for their own purposes. Key expresses her desire to escape to the coast, but Luke insists she stay and give birth at the safe house. The rest of the fishes cheer at the prospect of the child being born among them. Later that night, however, Theo overhears a disturbing conversation between Luke and other members of the group. Theo discovers that Julian's death was not a random accident, but a premeditated assassination orchestrated by Luke. The fishes plan to kill Theo next and use Key's baby as a political tool to spark a revolution against the government. Realizing they are in immediate danger, Theo quietly wakes up Key and Miriam.
Key, they killed Julian. We have to go now. Miriam, shut up!
I'm going with him. You have to keep your mouth shut.
They manage to steal a car and flee the farm just as the fishes realize they are escaping. Theo, Key, and Miriam drive through the night to reach the secluded home of Jasper. Theo explains the situation to his old friend, revealing that the fishes are no longer allies and have betrayed them. Inside the house, they discuss the existence of the Human Project, which is revealed to be a scientific group dedicated to curing infertility. They learn that a hospital ship disguised as a fishing boat, named the Tomorrow, is the goal for their rendezvous. Jasper formulates a plan to get the group into the Betrayal refugee camp, which is a heavily guarded restricted zone. He reveals that he has a contact named Sid, a camp guard who frequently buys drugs from him. The plan involves Sid smuggling them into the camp as prisoners so they can eventually reach the coast and take a rowboat to meet the Tomorrow. While they wait, Key shares that she realized she was pregnant when she began feeling sick and noticed her body changing, despite never having seen a pregnant woman before. The next morning, the fishes track the group to Jasper's secluded property using surveillance and forensic evidence. Jasper realizes the danger and insists that Theo, Key, and Miriam flee immediately while he stays behind to stall the pursuers. Before the fishes arrive, Jasper performs a mercy killing on his catatonic wife, Janice, using a government-issued suicide drug called quietus. He wants to ensure she does not suffer at the hands of the militant group. Theo watches from the nearby woods as Luke and the fishes barge onto the property and confront Jasper. Luke demands to know where Theo and Key have gone, but Jasper refuses to cooperate and mocks the new leader. In retaliation, Luke mercilessly shoots and kills Jasper. Horrified by the loss of his best friend, Theo regroups with Key and Miriam to continue their escape before the fishes can find them. The group eventually arrives at an abandoned school to wait for their meeting with Sid. While there, Miriam reflects on her past as a maternity nurse, describing how the infertility crisis began with a series of unexplained miscarriages until birth stopped entirely. Their conversation is interrupted by the arrival of a military vehicle. Theo uses a specific coded phrase provided by Jasper to identify himself to Sid, the immigration cop. Sid laughs and agrees to transport them to the Betrayal camp. He treats them harshly in public to maintain his cover as a guard, eventually putting them on a bus headed into the processing center. As the bus moves toward the camp, Key's water breaks and she begins to experience intense labor contractions. The situation becomes dire when a guard enters the bus to select detainees for execution or further processing. To protect Key, Miriam creates a massive distraction by feigning religious mania, screaming and drawing the guards' full attention. The guards seize Miriam and take her away from the group, placing a hood over her head and lining her up with other prisoners. Meanwhile, Theo manages to convince the remaining guard that Key has simply soiled herself, which causes the guard to leave them alone in disgust. Theo and Key are left to navigate the interior of the camp alone as they look for their next contact. After passing through the initial processing, Theo and Key enter the main grounds of the Bexhill refugee camp. The camp is a chaotic and dangerous place where the police and military use their power to abuse the illegal immigrants. Following the instructions previously given by Sid, they search for a woman named Marichka, a gypsy living within the camp who is supposed to help them find accommodation. Marichka leads them to a small, private room where they can hide from the guards and the growing unrest in the camp. Shortly after arriving, Key's labor intensifies, and she struggles through the birth with only Theo there to assist her. Despite the lack of medical equipment or a proper facility, the birth is successful, and a baby girl is born. This is the first human birth in 18 years, and the two spend the night in the room protecting the newborn.
It wasn't that bad.
The following morning, Theo is awakened by a loud knock at the door. It is Sid, accompanied by Marichka. Sid informs them that the situation outside has deteriorated rapidly because the fishes have bombed a hole in the camp's perimeter to free the refugees. A full-scale war has broken out between the British Army and the various refugee factions, including the fishes, who are leading an uprising. While they are talking, Key tries to hide the baby, but the movement catches Sid's attention. He discovers the infant and realizes the immense value of the child. Sid also reveals that he has seen news reports stating that Theo and Key have high bounties on their heads. Rather than helping them reach the coast, Sid decides to capture them and the baby to claim the reward for himself. Sid threatens them with his gun and orders them to move, but Marichka intervenes by pushing him off a set of stairs. In the ensuing struggle, Theo helps subdue and kill the corrupt guard, allowing them to escape the building. Marichka then leads them through the hazardous streets of the camp, where the fighting is becoming increasingly violent. As they move toward the coast, they encounter crowds of Muslim protesters marching and rebels exchanging heavy fire with British soldiers. The group is suddenly ambushed by the fishes, who have tracked them into the heart of the war zone. Luke and his men manage to capture Key and the baby, taking them away to a nearby apartment building while Theo and Marichka are left behind amidst the crossfire. The British Army begins a massive assault on the building where the fishes are hiding, using heavy artillery and ground troops. Theo manages to evade the soldiers and enters the building alone, navigating through hallways filled with corpses and terrified refugees. He eventually finds Luke, who is holding Key and the child in a room under heavy fire. Theo confronts Luke and manages to take Key and the baby away from him. Shortly after, a massive explosion hits the building, killing Luke and several other fishes members. As Theo escorts Key and the infant down the stairs and out of the building, a remarkable event occurs. The sound of the baby crying echoes through the war-torn halls, causing the soldiers and the rebels to stop fighting in disbelief. Awed by the sight of the first live infant they have seen in nearly 2 decades, the combatants lower their weapons and allow the trio to pass through the battlefield unharmed. The temporary ceasefire holds until they are clear of the immediate area, at which point the war resumes behind them. Marichka leads Theo and Key through the remains of the camp toward the shoreline. Once they reach the water, Marichka helps them into a small, hidden rowboat that has been prepared for their escape. Despite the danger, Marichka chooses to stay behind in the camp as Theo and Key depart into the sea. As Theo begins to row away from the coast, a thick fog settles over the water. In the distance, British fighter jets begin conducting massive airstrikes on Bexhill, lighting up the horizon as the camp is destroyed. While they row toward the rendezvous point, Key notices bloodstains on the floor of the boat and panics, thinking she is the one bleeding. Theo remains calm and reveals that he was actually shot and wounded by Luke earlier during the confrontation in the apartment building. Despite his injury, he continues to row to ensure they reach safety. As they wait in the silence of the fog, Theo takes the time to teach Key how to properly burp the baby. Key tells Theo that she has decided to name the baby girl Dylan, after the son that Theo and Julian lost years ago. Theo smiles weakly at the news, his strength finally fading from the blood loss. As he loses consciousness, the large ship belonging to the Human Project, the Tomorrow, slowly emerges from the heavy fog to find them. The screen cuts to black, and the sound of children laughing can be heard, suggesting a future for humanity.